Welcome back to another episode of Bleav in the Broncos on the Bleav Network, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook, your home for everything sports betting. I am Patrick Chiotti, joined, of course, by my co-host Bri Maestas, and joining us today for a very special episode is Hall of Famer, Super Bowl MVP, Terrell Davis. TD, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you.
That's a good question. How am I doing?
I know.
You know how I'm doing. It's rough, man. It's rough. You know, I just gotta hop into it, man. We're one game away from playing in the big game, and it didn't unfold the way I think we anticipated. Obviously, there were some challenges with not having our starting quarterback, but man, it's that game. That game was a punch in the gut.
It was.
Knowing that we had, home field advantage. Obviously, Stidham trying to hold it down the best way he could. The game just didn't unfold the way that I anticipated it, and so that's a rough one for us.
Yeah, definitely. And the weather being the factor that it is. I mean, you're playing in Denver. You got to know that the weather is coming at some point. But TD, we're going to get into this, and I couldn't help but think when I was watching, a big part of what we talked about on this show leading up to the game was they have to be able to get the run game going, especially with Stidham in at quarterback. J.K. Dobbins was this close to playing, but this close doesn't cut it. So they go into the game with Harvey and McLaughlin and Bidet. What did you see in that game as far as the run game goes, and what do you think they need to do to improve going into next season so that they don't run into another Stonewall like this?
I thought RJ ran hard. I did. I thought he did. I thought he was he was getting the most out of the opportunity. There just wasn't a lot of room for him to run. And if you're the Patriots, obviously you want to make sure that you make them put the ball in the air. And so the run game all year hasn't been great. When JK was there, though, I think we had a little bit of a personality with the run game. And so we were able to kind of eke out some yards, and there was a few games where he really took over as a running back. So, I'm a big fan, obviously, of running the football. I think it's a quarterback's best friend. The challenge is that the run game is an expensive thing to have. And I don't mean in terms of paying running backs. Time-wise, the commitment you have to commit to the running game in practice, the amount of hitting you have to do to make sure it's not simulated hitting, because when you simulate hitting, it never unfolds like that. So you have to actually go through live drills to run the football. So most teams don't have, obviously the league is cut down on practice time and all that stuff. So when I played, man, we used to practice the running game a lot. And so we invested a lot of time into it. We got the right pieces, the guys on our offensive line who could run the scheme that we ran. And we had backs that were willing to run the way that the scheme demanded. And so, but it took a lot of time and connections to get that running game going. And nowadays the game is just more passive, man. I think that's what coaches, they see it as. I don't know if it's the analytics or what, but somehow most coaches feel like that trying to substitute this little screen game or the 5-yard passing as a running game. And I keep hearing this, well, it's just as good as running a football. And no, it's not. It's not. It doesn't have the same impact as running a football. The offensive line, they don't get the same juice as running a football. You're not wearing down a defensive line. These are attitude runs. And you always have to have, if you're a really good team, we have always said, can you run the ball when you want to run the ball? And that's the key. I'm not saying you got to rush for 2,000 yards a year, but you need to be able to have that right and left punch, as I call it, with the offense. There's going to be games where they take the pass away. Okay, right. Can you run it? And can you run it when they think you're going to run it? They know you're going to run it. That's where you got to go. I like I said, I think JK is a really good back. I think RJ showed me something in this last game. He ran hard. And they gave him more opportunities to run with the ball as well. And he had a couple of passes as well. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, it's got to improve though overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does need to improve. And I like how you started off talking about just how emotional the loss is when you get that close. And I think sometimes this league really gives you clarity through sometimes what can be quantified as a failure rather than a success. But this season ended just one stop short of an ultimate goal. And I think in that moment, it will linger. What do you think this locker room can take from the loss as they prepare for what comes next, as they build off of this season?
Yeah, I think for them, I've experienced that same loss, although it wasn't the AFC Championship game. You know, we got to go way back. This is before you guys were born, but this is way back. This is back in 1996 when we lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the divisional round. And we were the favorite team. We were the number 1 seed. They came to Denver, and we lost that game. And what we did, in my opinion, which was great, was we took that feeling of losing that game and that disappointment, and we used that the following year. Anytime we had practice and we weren't practicing hard, we just had to remind ourselves, dude, like, this is why we lost to Jacksonville. You know, in the offseason, lifting weights or if guys weren't showing up, we had to remind ourselves that feeling of losing that game. And so that would always get us back to focusing on practicing harder, making sure that we had attention to detail, and we just kept that feeling of losing. And hopefully the Broncos take that feeling and use that next year to get them where they ultimately want to go. Now, there's no guarantee in this league that, you know, next year you're going to be in the same situation. So you may have to come in as a wild card. You may have to come in as a team that, you know, has to travel on the road the first 3 games or whatever. So it's just, it sucks, man, the offseason, but it's gonna burn, let it burn, but take it hard, you know, harness that energy, and next year let's go.
Right. 4 years old. I was 4 years old when that happened, TD, and I was old enough to remember you guys winning it for the first time. So
yeah, right on.
Now, Bo Nix didn't play in this game, TD, and that was a massive loss. I mean, he played his heart out against Buffalo, you know, unfortunately suffering that ankle injury to end the season. But when you watched Bo Nix operate the offense this season, did you see any qualities that kind of made you maybe think of John Elway in a certain sense? I obviously can't be one-to-one to one of the greats, but were there certain things in Bo Nix's game that had you thinking, man, this is the guy?
That's a hard one to compare it to. But I would say what I loved about Bo, no matter how the game played out, fourth quarter, when we needed him to make a play, he always showed up. That's how you judge quarterbacks, in my opinion. It's not what you do in the first 3 quarters. We've seen quarterbacks who are really good. When there's a clean pocket, when things are going great, they're really good. What Bo can do is it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, down by 7, down by what? I think one game we're down by 17 points or something like that.
Yeah.
And his ability to just stay even keel and just have this this killer mentality. I loved it, man. I think that's probably the similarities to John Elway, is knowing no matter what situation we're in the fourth quarter, chances are we're going to win this game because we got 7.
Yeah.
And now they got 10. And so love that. Now, obviously, he still has a lot of growing to do. And
right.
So you really don't want to be in these weekly battles like this with 1 point, 1 score games all the time. But the fact that we know we can win those games, that's a huge plus. But I guess, hopefully we'll be looking at a quarterback where we can play in some games where we have the leads. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go to the fourth quarter where we're putting him on the bench. That's the kind of offense I want to see.
Just hand him the ball.
I want Bo sit back, man, the fourth quarter. I want Stidham, man. I want the offense, celebrating on the sideline, having a good time, resting up. When that offense starts to do that, then I will say, okay, that's where that's where he should be.
he's reached that mark of, being up there with John and Peyton and the greats like that. Yeah, I see what you mean. But yeah, it is, that fourth quarter performances from him have been awesome to watch all year, and just his cool, calm, collected demeanor, and just knowing that he can go out there and win.
And it sucks, nice man. I feel for him, man. Like you think about this, all year long, you played every single snap. You get to a point where it is the second biggest game in your career so far. I say second because the Super Bowl would have been the first.
Right.
And you can't play in there. I know that feeling. I know that pain. I know what he feels like. He feels like he's let everyone down. And that's no fault of his own.
Yeah.
But that has to, that has to hurt, and that's going to hurt for a long time. And I know for him personally, he already had the fuel. He already had, the kind of drive to get back there. But that extra little, man, I owe my team. I owe them. So I got to make do next year. So that's going to help him out as well.
And you've got the ability to ride that trend, right? They get to improve from winning small to hopefully winning big next season, and tied into the conversation of how well Bo was playing, how much synergy there was with the team. I think there's a conversation of what a little bit of a letdown it can be when the league seems to make everything very urgent. Every carry, every snap, every evaluation. You're drafting these younger guys to help Bo, help the team, center focus the offense, and send the defense further down. But the NFL moves fast. If a younger player were to come to you and ask a really simple question, but it's really honest, is how do I stay on the field in this league, either physically or, emotionally, what would your answer be? Not just on theory, but you lived and witnessed it inside championship locker rooms.
Yeah, I always tell people, man, you have to make yourself irresistible to coaches. That's the only way you stay on that field. I'm seriously, like, whether it's practice, whether it's whatever it is, walkthrough meetings, you have to stand out. And you may get one chance, and it may not come in the form in which you think your chance will come in. My story, most people know this story, is that I got a shot to go run out on special teams and make a tackle on kickoff. And I hadn't even had a chance to run with the football up to that point. But I recognized that I have a shot on this team to make an impact, or at least let people know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And so I made this tackle on kickoff, and after that, they were like, wait a minute, if he's willing to do that, we have to allow him to run with the ball. We have to allow him to be a running back. And so when I got the second opportunity, I took advantage of that as well. And that's really what you have to do, is just try to take advantage of your situation, and then earn the trust of your teammates and coaches. You do that, I think that's really the key, and trust factor is the big one, because if they can trust me in practice, and then I show they can trust me in a game, no matter what situation we're in, a quarterback, the coach, they're going to feel confident in me and say, all right, we're in a situation. It's 4th and 1. You know who we want to give the ball to? I know I'm not 4th and 1. You know who we want to give the ball to? That guy back there. And I got to make good on it.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, I can't, whether it's a big hole or not, I've got to make good on that 4th and 1 so that they would trust me moving forward. And that's what I tried to do in my entire career. Just make sure that I rewarded the coaches for coming to me when they had confidence in me. I wanted to reward them for that.
Yeah.
And it worked out. So
it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well. TD, let's put you in the GM chair. From your perspective, how should teams be evaluating the running back today? Like, should they be looking at rush efficiency, explosive runs, receiving skills, pass protection, durability? How would you weigh those if you were the GM? What's between the eyes or what's between the ears?
My eyes. I have to see it. I get it. And I appreciate people with the analytics and the stats and, these are the measurables and all that stuff. I'm a big believer. No matter what level you're playing, whether it's Division 3, Division 2, one, whatever it is, when I see someone on the field who can play, that's the only confirmation I need. That's it. And I don't care how fast you run a 40-yard dash. I don't care if you run a 4.2 and you're running back. I can care less about that. There's certain things I look for in running backs that I hold, that I give a lot of value to. And it's not speed. It's your ability to move between the tackles. Can you play with power? Do you have burst? Do you have a natural instinct with spatial awareness? Can you feel where things are coming from? So it's hard to look at somebody and look at a stat sheet and then start looking at how tall, how fast they run, and then say they can play.
Yeah,
I have to go watch. Let me go watch the film. And I'm like, all right, he's my guy, or he's not my guy. But what happens, what I've seen, is some GMs are afraid to go off that. They need the backup information so that they can justify the pick. Right. Because if they miss out, people call them, you're a terrible GM. Yeah. So what they do is they listen to all the pundits, they listen to all the specialists, all the draft gurus, and then they might like a guy, but then they say, this guy has a higher, draft grade, so he's a safe pick to bring in because everybody says he's going to be a good player. You got to go out on a limb sometimes and just bring in a player that you think is a really good player. And if you draft them a little high, so be it. You got your guy, because we hear this every year too. Oh, he's too high. Don't pick him there. Fall back and then pick him at 20. Well, if you like him, if you love that player, why wait to 20? Pick him at 15. Pick him at 10. Yeah. But so it's interesting watching how the draft unfolds, and the players nowadays they don't have a lot of time to develop too. They're not being developed in college anymore. As we're seeing that they're all over the place, and so they're not being developed, and they're coming to the league, and they don't have a lot of time to be developed here as well. So you got to come in kind of ready-made, and a lot of these teams have to take chances on players who are not ready, and then force them to be ready. Right, and that's tough.
Yeah, it comes with the development, and you spoke to it. You got guys in the draft that you're looking at. You love them, pick them up where they are, bring them in because akin to the offense and the spark you're looking for there, it's not just a running back position potentially that the Broncos are looking for. It's the tie into the offensive line and all the motion that you create with your tight ends, et cetera. Keeping your general manager hat on for just one more question is, sometimes one piece can really change the identity of an entire offense. Do you think there's a player in particular that would help the most to have the Broncos team take the next step? Is there a guy you would circle, whether in a trade or free agency, that could unlock a little bit of motion there for this team?
Oh, wow. That question is one where I would have had to do some homework on that one.
Oh, I just didn't know I don't know if anybody tickled your fancy when it came to players who fit here in a Broncos orange and blue.
No, you listen, I haven't, I used to cover the NFL for many years. The last 2 years I have been a civilian. I have been watching from the outside. So I have not been looking at free agents and draft picks and all that stuff. I'm a casual viewer. Obviously watch the Broncos, but I'm sure Sean Payton will be able to do what he has to do. And George Payton, those guys will be able to figure this thing out. They've done a really good job. Year two, I would say. People say, and I don't like this, where people say, well, they're ahead of schedule of where they're supposed to be. I'm not big on ahead of schedule. They're where they should be. Every year, teams are going to, some will ascend, some will fall, but it's the NFL, and everybody's on full scholarship. And the Broncos where they are this year is where they should be. I hope, because there's lots of variables to get back to where you were this year, and their path will be different next year. There's no doubt about it. So they'll continue to look at the pieces and bring in the right ones. And I have a lot of confidence in Sean Payton and what George is doing. So.
How about this, TD? If you could take one player from your Super Bowl teams, not named John Elway, not named Terrell Davis, and you could put him on today's Bronco team, who would it be?
Oh, Shannon Sharp. Come on.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, Shannon would. Yeah, I mean, we've had the tight end position has been one that has been missing for a while.
Yeah.
And so I think having him would be ginormous. That dude is just he's a hell of a player and locker room guy, man. So
yeah,
that would be a
there
great
it is.
fit.
Well, TD, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Make sure that you follow TD on the socials. Make sure that you follow Bri and I on social media as well, at Bri Maestas 303, at Patrick Chiotti. Follow at Bleav Network as well. And we will see you all next time. Go Broncos.